honor of the fire moon coming.
Oh, nice. And here we are. We're rolling. Welcome back to Spirit Talk Podcast. I'm Annette Dion. This is Kathy Biehl, the amazing astrologer, and we were going to meet next week, but then we decided there was just too much going on and we couldn't wait. The suspense was killing us. So we're back. We're live, and if you want to post anything in the chat, our viewers out there, feel free, including any questions that you might have. We are heading into a full moon. This one isn't an eclipse. And my sign of Sagittarius is it June 5th?
It's the third or fourth, depending on where you are. For
Okay.
for the US, it's on the third. Europe, it's on the fourth.
Okay. And it's aspecting some important things for the United States. I got a little heads up on that. So let's jump into it. How's it going, Kathy?
It's going great. I
All
feel real
right.
good. I was
Yeah.
caught in the fixed Grand Cross and had all kinds of technology problems as a result of it. But
Me too.
the Grand Cross is, I know, I saw you did, and we could go head to head on what went wrong.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
like, okay, we were out of the Mercury retrograde. What was going on there? I blamed it on something astrological. I think it was Jupiter. But I'm not an astrologer.
right.
I'm a psychic. What did you blame it on?
The fixed Grand Cross. It was at the very, very beginning of the fixed signs, and it's like the hanged man, but with someone pulling on his head and pulling on his legs and pulling on both arms, and you're just kind of like being pulled in all these directions
Yeah.
with breakdowns, horrible breakdowns.
Yeah, I like that you compared it to a tarot card. I can
Like
speak
I
that language better than I can speak astrology. So the hangman is like basically just kind of hang out and ride the wave and just let it just surrender to the
watch the movie
universe.
and try
And
to get a higher perspective.
yeah, that's really important nowadays. I recommend that everyone get a broader perspective on things, because when I look at the broader perspective, when I view everything that's going on from like I'm way up in, the stratosphere
Mhm.
somewhere, I see the general trend is that we're going in a good direction. The thing that scares everybody is that we have to kind of fight all these dragons on the way, and the dragons get more ferocious as we move into this, time of change. You're finding that to be true astrologically, right? Like it's reflected.
Well, don't be fooled. All right. There's a lot of stuff that's in the process of unraveling. So let me just put a
Yeah.
tiny bit of framework here. We had a lunar eclipse on the midterms with Uranus, the cosmic agent of absolute unpredictability and radical change,
Mhm.
retrograde right smack on top of the moon. So this spring, Uranus moved direct to the spot where it was at that eclipse. And things are starting to get undone. An announcement came just before we went live of a Republican rep from Utah who says he's going to resign due to his wife's health reasons. I've been saying that the way things looked at the midterm is not the way they're going to stay. And in June, so fast forward, just keep the dates June 13th through 18th in mind, because Mars, which is a trigger planet, is going to hit where Uranus was. It's going to hit the midterm eclipse. It's going to hit the degree of the eclipse that happened in May, right before the coronation. And all kinds of stuff is going to start running in motion. And fun fact, just when he's in the buildup for that, he moves across Trump's Pluto in Leo. Pluto, big money, hidden secrets, in his 12th house of hidden things, 12th
Hmm.
house of criminality. And I'll also say that a whole bunch of the people that we have been talking about and obsessed with are going to have things in their charts hit, set off. McCarthy's one,
Right.
Abbott is one, Paxton is another, when this all starts going. But that's not the only thing happening in June. That's at the middle of the month, but we got a couple other things happening before we get to it. So I jumped way
Hmm.
ahead. We were going to start with the full moon, but just know that's part of where we're heading. And the full moon is part of the path. But there's one thing before we get to the full moon that you'll hear about. Jupiter, an expansive influence at the very beginning of the sign of Taurus, is meeting with the North Node, which is like where we're heading. This is actually really good stabilizing news for the long term financially. So if you're out there freaking out, buying into political theater or whatever, just be of good cheer.
Yeah,
Keep
I have
going.
found that, and I mentioned this on my Psychic News Network last night. Over the past 4 to 5 weeks, I've really picked up on the collective just hanging on to their money. People just being afraid to spend a penny. I think that's got a lot to do with the debt ceiling being so unpredictable and just all these threats of you're going to lose Social Security, you're going to lose your Medicare, you're going to lose everything. So I'm wondering if this time that we're in right now is like the very beginning phase of a huge shift. I know we talked about Pluto and Aquarius, and did you say that was going to end in like 20 years or
June.
something?
Right, but that's part of what's coming up in June also.
That it goes it's in Aquarius
Back
now,
into,
right?
on June 11th, it goes back into Capricorn. So right until next January.
And then after that, it goes into Aquarius for a long period of time, correct?
For no, it'll be there for most of next year, and then it ducks back into Capricorn, and then it's full steam ahead.
For how long after that?
20 years.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking about. So to me, it feels like we're at the beginning of this giant planetary shift. Like we're in the very initiation stages of it right now, even though it seems like we've been in that for the past 7 years. From a political perspective, anyhow.
Well, to bring in the new, you have to expose the rot in the foundations, which is what Pluto and Capricorn's been doing.
Fun. I can't tell you how many nausea emojis I see in the chat when I'm doing a Psychic News Network video. It's like they're all over the place, especially when I mention certain individuals.
Well, okay, be of good cheer because I see we're at a turning point. We're at a point where the pendulum's been going, and now it's going to go whoosh, start going back way. And some things won't happen as speedily as you want in June, but there will be big things. And this full moon is an important part of it because it's in the sign of Sagittarius, which has to do with laws, belief systems, prejudices. And it's right smack on top of the ascendant, which is like what we think we are, our identity of the July 4th, 1776 chart, the one that is used most frequently. There are a whole bunch of times a day people use, but the one that has, there's one that has a 13-degree Sagittarius rising sign, which is the one I always use. So this full moon is right smack on that, bringing a lot of stuff to a head. And this is a really energetic and fiery full moon because Mars is in a fire sign and it's connecting to it. And Chiron, which is the wounded, the toxic masculinity, how we're all massive wounds. It's in what's called a grand trine. There's this unbroken flow of energy. So there could be a lot of screaming. There could be a real high level of emotionality. Sagittarius isn't normally a really emotional sign. It's more, like I'm going to go ride my horse off in the trees kind of thing. But, or I know what's right and you're wrong and I'll pummel you. And there could be a lot of that going on. Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse, My Way or the Highway kind of vibe. But Saturn is playing a role in this as well. And Saturn's going to be a major player in all of June. Saturn is the planet of consequences, the planet of adulting, the one that says, oh, you did that? Here, answer for it. So it's a part of it as well. And when I look at that, the moon across the U.S. chart, there is, for one thing, creativity runs really high, but there's a possibility here of the executive i.e., the president, coming out looking really, 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 really good. And something that happened with the debt negotiations has a faded quality to it. And it's been caught up in the fixed grand cross in the immovability, but that is starting to break up. Mars is moving out of the cross and heading for setting off all the eclipse action. So the feeling of everything being stalled will be less and less and less and less and less. And we may learn a whole lot this weekend about our beliefs and other people's beliefs and what the personal emotional impact of politics ends up being. I would suggest everybody, fire moons are really great for burning things, for rituals where you physically release something. And I'm a pyro myself, so I have a fire moon. It's not in Sag, but you know, I would say right.
What's your moon in? Leo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Mars is in Leo now. And
Yeah, Mars is on my moon, so stay out of my way or I'll punch you.
I get it. I have Mars in Leo. I get it. Okay, so a couple things. I have so many questions. One is that being a Sagittarius myself, I'm December 9th. I have a sense about Sagittarius that even though it's a mutable sign, there's I don't want to say rigidness, but there's a almost a fixed kind of an energy to Sagittarius. I don't know if I would attribute that to just the archer aiming the arrow at a target. You know, it's there's nothing really. The classic Sagittarian energy to me is like there's nothing really that's foggy or murky when it comes to just the general nature of a Sagittarian. Of course, I'm talking in just really general terms. It seems like it's a directed energy, even though it's a mutable sign. That you would feel like it would be more of a fixed quality. It feels more sharp and directed. Is it? Do you get that astrologically?
It can have a very, very strong intellectual fixation. It can be jingoistic. It can be really extreme of what I was saying, my way, or, you know, like I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm going to argue you into, into the floor about it, or I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. Guilty as charged. So with the United States having Sagittarius rising, which I kind of adhere to that feels about right to me. That really directed quality. I'm wondering where that hits Joe Biden. Does he have Sagittarius as aspected in his chart that's aligning with anything?
Interesting you say that, because Biden is Sag rising.
Oh, is he? I know he's a Scorpio. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's got 4 planets in Scorpio, but he has Sag rising, which is the occasional gaffes, and also the affability and the ability to, to make jokes about things. I will say with, and also being a political creature, that would be part of it too. The Sag rising in the Declaration of Independence chart that I like to use also shows that we're a nation of nations. We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of people who came from many, many places. And there's this expansive qualities. Like I'm going to be big and big and big and big and big. I mean, you think of started out as this little swath of land and one part of the continent, and it's got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it has this global influence.
Whether it's the explorer energy of Sagittarius, always looking for the bigger, greater frontier. The other thing I want to ask you about too is this Grand Cross. I mean, we're most of us are newbies here in terms of astrology, and I've heard a lot about this Grand Cross, and the way I've heard it is kind of like, the Grand Cross. So if all us non-astrologers are over here going, okay, what does it mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral?
It's the energy that's like being the hangman being pulled in all those 4 directions. It's a series of challenging interlocking aspects with 4 bodies at the very beginning of the fixed signs, which stay places and don't move. So grand crosses tend to pull you in many directions. In the fixed, at the very beginning of the fixed sign, it's like hyper stuck. So we've got Jupiter, which expands everything at the very beginning of Taurus, which is the first earth sign and the very most earthbound and slowest energy. So it's like hyper slow, hyper big, having to do with, where's my food? Where's my money? Make it real, make it physical. And it's been, so you go from that to Mars, planet of action, planet of push, at the very beginning of Leo. And then the south node in Scorpio, which is what we're moving away from. So it's all this, scandal and corruption and God knows what. And then the final point is Pluto at the very beginning of Aquarius. So this made the Mars and the Pluto part of this contributed to massive technological breakdown. And I'll just say, Ron DeSantis launched his campaign with that exact, meaning that the birth chart for his campaign has that built into it, meaning that it's not gonna get anywhere.
Right. So the Grand Cross in general means, because I wondered if this Grand Cross was more like fixed because of the astrological configurations, which it definitely sounds like, yeah. But the Grand Cross in general means kind of being suspended and stuck. Okay, because I've heard
Yeah,
I've heard about it in different ways.
Oh, I look at it as you're the hangman, but you're hanging over the situation, kind of like, oh, and you can't do anything about it. You just have to endure until things start moving away. Now, interestingly, I'll just throw out another fun fact, that infamous Trump Tower meeting that happened in June of
The election year?
2016. About the adoption anyway, this really, really infamous Trump Tower meeting happened under a mutable Grand Cross. So that issue is not going away. It just keeps mutating back in and mutating in.
I'm trying to think of what that was. What issue that
was. It has to do with Russia.
Oh, the adoption.
Russia and the campaign. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta do.
But that's a rabbit hole. I'm just. Yeah, no, that's a rabbit hole, but just know that. So with the fixed one, now we're in the point now where we're still kind of in the final playing out of it, but Mars is moving more and more and more out of it. So things are breaking up. This fixed Grand Cross coincides with what was being presented as a stalemate in the debt ceiling negotiations. But you'll notice that there's talk that, there's actually a deal, and Biden's moon, which is his emotional driver, is at the very beginning of Taurus. So this was all extremely personal for him.
Yeah, I could see that. I could just psychically, when I last saw him at his most recent press conference, I just went, whoa, he's angry. It is personal. It feels personal. But he's been in the political scene basically his whole life, so he knows what he's up against. But he's never been up against anything like this. So the Grand Cross, I guess it was Wednesday. Did it really hit on Wednesday? Was that the
Well, it's been around for a while, but it was really tight that night. And one other thing I'll mention, 2 events happened that day.
Ron DeSantis is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, 2 events happened that day. The one we all know about is Twitter Spaces crashing and just being weird. But the other one we don't know the time of. He filed with the Federal Election Commission to run for president that day. If he filed 10 a.m. or earlier, and again, we don't know, the moon was void, of course, which means maybe nothing comes of it, maybe it unravels, something happens that isn't what you intended. If he filed after 10 o'clock, the moon was part of the Grand Cross. Either way, it's a doomed campaign. So people, don't worry about him. I mean, yeah, there's stuff going on in Florida that is really concerning, but don't worry about him personally getting anywhere.
Are you able to, I know not right now, but I wondered if you could look at some point a chart of Florida.
Hold on. Yes, but there's something happening with him. DeSantis is going to really, really be hit by that time period that I mentioned, June 13th through 18th,
Mm-hmm.
and Saturn, really the star player, the quiet one that's really going to dominate the news like crazy in June is opposite his Saturn and his Mercury all month long. So let me just throw into that while I'm looking for I have a Florida chart somewhere. It'll take me a while to find it. I do have it.
Oh, you do have it. Oh, cool. Yay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You should see
Yeah.
what
It
this
sounds
looks
like
like.
there'll be really botched communications.
It just, yeah, and technology falling apart and big money issues. The day after his campaign launched, it was reported that he's having government staffers solicit lobbyists to make donations to the campaign, which is another way of saying he has government officials soliciting bribes for
Yeah.
him. That's not going to go
He's
well.
stuck in that dictator past lifetime, I'm telling you.
Yep. It's going to take me a while to find Florida's chart. So,
Yeah, that's okay. I even thought, for next time, I didn't think that you actually had it. But was there anything
oh,
when you peeked at the Florida chart? Was there anything that stood out? I'm sure you've taken a peek at it.
yeah. And I think I said something last time. That I do not remember. I'm mostly focused on DeSantis has trouble coming. And I actually like to segue into what's happening with Saturn because he's one of the people that we're going to see having trouble with it. Saturn, party pooper of the zodiac, the guy with the 16-ton anvil coming down on you.
It's your
Or
father's coming home. Wait till
that's
your
it.
father gets home.
Wait till your
It's
father
that.
comes home. Okay. Saturn is a very slow moving influence. And on June 2nd, it reaches the degree where it will retrograde later in the month, but it sits there from June 2nd to July 3rd, like
Whoa.
I say,
Whoa.
gathering strength like a hurricane in the Gulf, just getting, and then it's going to retrograde. So there are all these people who have something that Saturn has been pushing on, and it's like, I'm watching you, I'm watching you.
Oh, let's go
All
through the list. Do you have the list?
Well, DeSantis is one of them. He is one. Essentially, here's the framework. All right, so it's sitting there. Kavanaugh's having his Saturn return, so he's one of them.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Meaning that Saturn is coming back to where it was when he was born. It's already gone over it once. Ginny Thomas has big problems. Saturn's going back and forth over her son. Let me see who else. Well,
This is
Pat.
like people. This is like what goes around comes around time. Saturn.
If you've been doing your homework, if you've been acting out of integrity and using your energy with responsibility, Saturn delivers rewards. But
Yeah.
if not, you get it. Ken Paxton, and I got to say, I am a member of the State Bar of Texas, and
Oh.
okay.
Did you hear me say? Did you hear me say on my Psychic News Network? This is before the Paxton stuff was happening. I said I feel all these legal forces in Texas coming together, and it was really intense and really strong. And it was like, boy, they know what they're doing. They're not messing around. And then all of a sudden, the news about Paxton about to be impeached came out, and I was like, that's what I was picking up on.
And he was, in fact. And what happened is Saturn is sitting on, he has Chiron conjunct Jupiter at 6 and 7 degrees Pisces. So there's something here about boundaries. So there's this boundarylessness thing with him. And, you look at it. So Saturn's been sitting, it's there. It was on his Chiron when he got impeached. It's going to sit there all month. Now, his impeachment trial starts June 2nd, the day Saturn moves onto his Jupiter. So this is good. He started out with 20 articles of impeachment, and someone has already introduced an amendment to add to it because in between the Texas House Ethics Committee referring him for impeachment and the hearing, he started phoning people, telling them what would happen to their political careers if they back this. So that's like another item, another article of
that's kind of like trademark for these types, isn't it?
Mhm.
they turn around. They have no shame, no remorse, and then they start attacking the people that are abiding by the law.
So what this means about this trial and about anybody else who's got something at the in the early degrees of Saturn is all month long. It may look like nothing's happening. Trust me, something's happening really, really slowly and building and building and building. And then Saturn is going to go retrograde starting on the 17th, but it'll still be at this spot until early June. It goes back to the beginning of Pisces by early November. By next February, it will be back at the location where it's sitting all of June, meaning that in February, it's harvest time for all kinds of things. So
Oh, okay.
so there's a lot, even if, there's still other stuff to come from all of this. So thing one, probably proceedings are going to take a while, take a longer time than you might like. But secondly, oh, there's a payoff. Oh, there's a payoff.
So, do you think we'll get clearer in terms of what we know in the month of June? That's what it seems like to me, that we will start to actually, like maybe the Jack Smith indictments, which I think are coming next week, for the
And that would
documents.
actually that would
Does that
actually
make sense?
fit.
Yeah.
That would actually fit. Let me find his chart. I've got it
And his
somewhere.
birthday, Trump's birthday is Flag Day, ironically, June
Uh-huh.
14th. And
Here we go.
curious what's coming around for him on his birthday.
Well, there is a okay, first off, Saturn has been in an adjustment aspect to his uh the planet of illusion and grifting and deals that aren't really anything in his money house. So Saturn's been in this adjustment aspect to that, and the payoff time for that is March of 2024. There's a bunch of stuff teeing up now that is going to lead to major, major stuff March and April next year. Now, his New York trial is set for
October?
March. That's the Trump organization trial.
Right,
His
yes.
criminal
There's so
trial
many.
in New York, I know his
Yeah.
criminal trial in New York is set for March, when there'll be this eclipse right on top of his Neptune. So that there's one arc for you with this. Saturn sitting where it will all of the month of June is in an easy flow with his Mercury in Cancer in the 11th house of group organizations like Congress. It also has to do with his kids. Somebody could be yakking. Somebody could be yakking with
Does her
this.
name start with an I?
I've wondered about that myself. Then in June, okay, so then these things that start happening here is the clockwork. In June, Mars, planet of action, planet of shove, planet of push, men going after something, goes across his Pluto, huge money, big secrets, corruption, in the 12th house of hidden things, criminality.
In March?
No, this is June.
In
This is
June.
June.
Okay.
So that's my guess for when, some really
Oh,
major
yeah.
thing
Okay, that makes
comes
sense.
down.
Yeah.
Major thing comes down early in June. And then as this is happening, Saturn is going to start, Mars is going to start setting off all these different eclipse issues, eclipse problems, things from the midterms, things from May. I don't see how he gets out of it. I honestly don't, because um, as this is happening, we've got these different trial dates, different things going on here and there, here and there, here and there. In July and August, the planet that rules money is going to be retrograde in his 12th house of criminality. It's also
This
women.
summer.
So a bunch of stuff is going to start coming out even more then. And that's when Fonnie Willis has things scheduled. So I look at it as an Iron Maiden, astrologically and legally. Sorry.
When
And
I was reading on him last night, I really got the sense that he knows exactly what he's facing. Like just like he he knew he lost the election. He just knows.
Mhm.
He's pretending he doesn't know. But like I don't know if there's anything in Trump's chart that has to do with him being having any intuition at all. But it seems like he's not as dumb as we think he is in terms of, well, he knows the legal system, right?
Well, he knows how to play it. He really does know how to play it.
So, but he
And
and you know, on the flip side, he knows what's coming for him.
and he has no problem saying anything. Saying
Right. Right.
anything.
So then because he's so pretty clear on exactly what kind of legal trouble he's in, he's pretty clear, I think. Like he can't get out of this. How many different court cases is he facing? Different trials. So he can't get out of it. So he knows he can't get out of it. So he's so clear about what kind of legal trouble that he's in that he knows how to flip it immediately. He knows just what to say to grift. And
Which is
oftentimes he sets it up that way, like that.
That's his great talent.
Yeah.
That is his great
Yeah.
talent.
Somebody's asking if you can do a chart on Texas.
Oh, I'll look at Texas. Yeah, I haven't done that. That's
Lots happening there.
Sure, I will do that.
And
I'll have Texas and Florida for our next time. How's that?
and we also looked at Greg Abbott's chart before. So maybe if we can, I'm working you, I know.
No, okay. Abbott, the full moon this weekend is on Abbott's Saturn. So
Oh,
he's not having an easy time of it right now. And there'll be a lot of attention. And you'll notice he's been really quiet
yeah, he's in a
ever since.
panic. Somebody's saying he's in a panic.
Well, the AG's impeachment wouldn't have happened, don't you think, if Abbott wasn't on board with it? Don't you think?
Well,
Don't you think?
that and I got that he feels less Abbott feels less secure now. To me they were like two peas in a pod. Maybe they have similar charts. But Abbott and
Mhm.
Paxton, they seem like they were in cahoots in some kind of
Oh, well, they
for
definitely,
entertainment purposes only, illicit things.
well, things to know about Abbott. First off, a lot of stuff's coming to a head this weekend for him. So this is a turning point in his role in politics. Secondly, I've mentioned that time period in mid-June.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, Mars is going to go. So there's a big surprise, a big revelation coming about Abbott when this all gets set in motion
In June.
in June. And I mean, I'm not going to say that he is going to leave office, but something we're not seeing and we're not privy to is going to come at him. Could be federal charges that would fit. I mean, as I was listening to the truly astonishing impeachment articles against Ken Paxton, I just sat there going, federal offense, federal offense, federal
Right.
offense, federal
Right.
offense.
Right.
And
And it's
and
so funny. It's there's this whole entire list and then they just respond like, "Well, you're a jerk because you're holding me accountable." And you know, how many felonies does Trump have? 35?
oh, who knows?
Unbelievable.
Anyway,
So,
my point is we're
Abbott.
in a moment now. We're in a moment now that is like it's the theme of the Bugs Bunny theme song. Everyone sing it. Overture, light the lights. There's no
I don't know the
rehearsing or
words.
parts.
I
On with
just
the
know
show. This is it.
that's all, folks. That's what I know. I can't wait till
No.
we're saying that about all these characters.
Another thing about Abbott is there's a solar eclipse in October that is on his Jupiter, which is really big
Yeah.
in the part of his chart that deals with his relationship with the legislature. And solar eclipses start new phases in a really huge way. Maybe he loses control. I mean, maybe, I don't know. His grip is different. I don't know. There is something happening from last week into the fall that is really changing the political calculations
Do
for
you feel like
Abbott.
he's losing his grip on things? He's losing his control.
Or there's something. There's
Yeah.
something going on here because, and let's look at, just so people know, it wasn't like, oh, somebody woke up and decided they were going to gun for the attorney general in Texas. He fired some whistleblowers. He fired whistleblowers who were talking about illegal stuff going on in his office. And then there
Ken
was a
or Greg.
Paxton,
Okay.
the
Yep.
attorney general. So there was a settlement for $3.3 million that he wanted the state to pay. That's when the investigation started. Like, wait a minute,
Of
you
course.
broke the law and you want us to
Of
pay for it?
course. Malignant narcissism. It's quite a thing.
But that's why the Texas GOP moved from protecting one of its own to, we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, we're not paying you for that.
So those are some people that are just important to watch. McCarthy has his own issues coming in June. McCarthy, let's see, wait, where's his chart?
Before you go to him, I just have to point this out. Abbott was supposed to make a big announcement in June about 2024 run with Harlan Crow. Have you heard that? I haven't heard that. He's running for president?
Well, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I mean,
astrologically, the answer is no.
oh, no, actually, astrologically, that could be part of what he does. He wants to change his relationship with things, but with Mars moving across that Uranus, I mean, maybe he resigns to run. I don't think you have to in Texas. I don't see him getting anywhere. If that makes you feel better.
Yeah, I'll have to do a reading on that, a psychic reading.
I don't see, there are a lot of people saying they're running. I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm going to run too. You want to run? Want to run for president?
Sure. And by the way, there is no birth date. There's no birth time for Harlan Crow. No birth date, not even a year. Otherwise, I'd have his chart because he seems to be interesting that we've got major players with no birth dates. We don't have one for Harlan Crow.
Yeah.
There isn't one for Fonnie Willis. There isn't a credible one for Jack Smith. So,
well, I would think Jack Smith would be hidden.
they're all hidden anyway.
Well, no, I mean the chart, don't you think? I mean the birth date and time.
Oh yeah,
Would be
no, but we don't
hidden.
even have a birth date. We don't even have a birth date for these three people. We don't know what, not even a month and day.
Oh, I
Let
thought that
alone year.
the rumor is that Jack Smith is a Pisces.
I've seen
just
two
a
different
rumor?
charts for him. Who knows? We don't know what. I don't trust any of that. I'm not
I don't
messing.
mind Jack Smith being a mystery man. That's okay with me. The
Me
others I'm
too.
concerned about. So you were mentioning McCarthy.
So McCarthy is having his Saturn return. Now, when a Saturn return means that Saturn is this year coming back to where it was when he was born. And when you have it in your Saturn return in your late 50s, it's going to happen 3 times. It's already moved across it once. It's going to move it across in retrograde this summer, and then at the beginning of the year it'll move across again for the 3rd time. Saturn return in your late 50s is a time of looking at what you've done with your life and deciding what you're done with and what you want on the platform for the rest of your life.
And what has Kevin really done?
So
really,
there's an answering. Well, Kevin is very, very good at amassing money.
Yeah.
That's his natural ability. And all of the things in his chart that speak to his amassing money are getting hit in mid-June by this event that I keep talking about. So he's got pain coming. He has pain coming.
He's out of there, I'm telling you.
And next year, as Saturn continues to move through Pisces, it's going to oppose something in his chart. He's part of a generation. He's part of a small segment of people who were born with a signature for being change agents. And, so, okay, look at him as a Trump-like change agent in that doing things in a way to make us go, oh, no.
That makes sense to me.
So, So that comes to a head next year.
Look at how many things we have to fix because of Trump, for example. How many things we have to put laser focus on and go, oh, we can't have that. Like a criminal running for president from jail. We might need to fix that. Anyway, go on.
Um, so I mean, there's so many ways I can take this, but just know that something is happening to him in June that is going to really shake up his ability to pull in money. Now, maybe that means that the Freedom Caucus goes, "Oh, we don't like you," and that 5 people say, "You're out," as it would be consistent for him to lose his speakership. I don't think it's going to be that he gets booted from the House in June, but that will probably happen next year.
But he could lose his speakership in June. That's one
He
of the
could,
possible
he could,
outcomes.
yeah, he could lose his, it would fit what's going on for him to lose his speakership in June, and it would be over money.
Oh, it would. Oh, over the debt.
Oh,
Yeah, the debt.
over the,
Right,
yeah, over the
right,
debt.
right. And then, pardon my ignorance. Tell me it wouldn't be Marjorie Taylor Greene stepping in. Who steps in if he's ousted from his speaker seat? Who steps in?
The House has to vote. We had 15 votes for him. Who knows? I mean, it is not out of the, it's unlikely that it would be Hakeem Jeffries, but it doesn't have to be the head of the party that has the majority. It's
Okay,
who
because
the
yeah,
majority of the people vote in. So who knows?
I think
Uh,
that Kevin's going to get ousted and that Hakeem Jeffries will be speaker. That's what I've always
I
gotten.
and what I've always gotten from the astrology, and my intuition backs it up, is that a lot of things that went one way at the midterms, starting in March and April, turning in another direction. And this is going to just happen more and more and more. And the first example we saw of that was that rep in North Carolina who was pro-choice, who even made a teary speech on the North Carolina legislature floor about her own abortion,
Yeah.
changing parties and giving the GOP a supermajority. Well, it's going to happen in the other way too, and you'll
Right.
just be seeing people like, again, that rep leaving this week. I don't see how Santos stays. I'm not
Yeah,
even
I
going to.
was going to ask you about Pinocchio.
I don't have a birth time that I believe in for him, so I
You
haven't looked
haven't.
at his.
Yeah, so you haven't don't have anything. Hmm.
No, but I just put this in the general bucket of
Right.
things that went one way at the midterms are just going to flip and flip and flip and flip, and that those dominoes are going to start falling like crazy in mid-June, because okay, Mars goes through this gauntlet of hitting little levers that have been in place since the midterms, like, okay, change, 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 change. Then Pluto, while that's happening, or in the middle of it, Pluto goes back into Capricorn until early next year to do some more remedial infrastructure work on our institutions and foundations. And
Good.
it's going to go back to the degree, not quite the minute, but the degree of Pluto in the US chart. So we're not done with our Pluto return. And then Saturn goes retrograde. And then there's this feeling of, oh, it's coming.
And it goes retrograde at the start of next year?
Saturn goes retrograde on the 17th of June. It spends the
Oh,
entire
okay.
June sitting at the degree of its retrograde station. So if
I'm getting
anybody,
confused.
so,
I'm
but
getting
what this,
confused about March, April next year. It's like,
oh, there's other stuff that will come into play March, April next year. But for right now, we have a sequence of things hitting trigger, 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 and things changing, unlocking, breaking open. I would say that what happened in Texas is the first wave of this, because Paxton was reelected at the midterm.
yeah. Wink, wink, right?
Well,
Yeah, it does feel to me like, um, what's that game? Is it Jenga where you
mhm.
pull blocks out? And it does feel like they're loosening up and things are going to start falling.
One other thing to keep in mind, with Saturn sitting in this one spot so long and then kind of going back and forth, anybody who has an early, anyone who's an early Gemini is getting squeezed by this. Anyone who's an early Sagittarius is getting squeezed by this. But Gemini, I mentioned in particular because we have so many people from the last administration that are Geminis.
And
Giuliani
Aquarians.
is right, but Giuliani is an early Gemini. Bill Barr is an early Gemini. Marjorie Taylor Greene is an early Gemini. These people are getting like Saturn's
Hammered.
going.
Yeah. Yeah, they
See
should
you.
pay they should have been paying attention to the good side of the personality, not the bad side. That is an aspect of Gemini, the twins.
Here I am. Now I'm somebody else. Whee. Okay.
Yeah, really. So I think I've been feeling optimistic because the full moon's going to be in Sagittarius, and we're ridiculously optimistic. But also, I feel like June's going to be a good month. It's really hard when we're like and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. It's like we know something has to give, but nothing's given, nothing's given, and it feels like kind of like an exhale coming in June to me. It's not like
I
everything's
agree.
going to be perfect, right? But it's going to be like, oh, they have been working on. Oh, the DOJ hasn't been sleeping. In fact, they've been working around the clock, which I really think they work around the clock.
I would
And
agree with that. And the
they're
news
hitting
that's
it
been
hard.
coming out about the documents in Mar-a-Lago, I bet that's the first one to drop, and I bet it does drop soon. If now we have
That's
one of his attorneys who's recused himself, actually saying that he was told that the documents were someplace other than where they were, so he was himself kept from looking
right,
in a
right.
place where they had been moved to.
Oh yeah, it's very, very. Trump is very, 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 very guilty. Well, he even admits it straight out. Yeah, I
Hmm.
took him.
Hmm.
I just did these things with my mind to declassify them. So who else do we have to? Oh, the debt ceiling. It you're not seeing any devastation economically for the U.S. And you mentioned
No.
that it was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Well, negotiation or God knows what, but A, Biden's in a really good place astrologically.
Yeah,
B, uh, Jupiter and the North Node at the beginning of Taurus. We're not going hungry, folks. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, there are financial issues, but
yeah,
uh, the next year is really, really good for resources. Really, I mean, there's
yeah.
a calmness. There's a calmness, and I don't know if you picked up that
Oh yeah,
even as crazy as everything is, it doesn't feel like everything's going to blow up around you. I feel infinitely calmer, and
yeah.
I'm
And you
not a calm
mentioned that
person
the
by
summer
nature.
there we could look forward to some calm energy too. You mentioned
Hmm.
that with certain aspects happening. But last night I've started reading tea leaves on my channel, and people seem to like it, so I'll probably continue. And I do that at the end. If anybody wants to check it out, at the end last night, looking at the tea leaves, I went, "Oh my gosh, the economy is going to be really good." So it sounds like that checks out.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
saw
it's growth.
the money. I
It's
saw
like,
like this bouquet of flowers in the money section of the cup.
oh, that's
So
lovely.
yeah, so we'll be able to breathe a little bit easier, I think, even though it's really disconcerting to see how evil these people in leadership can be. I know that we did look at Ted Cruz one time, and I don't know if
I've got him.
off the
Hold on.
top. Okay, I want to know what's going to happen with him because I feel like he's up to all kinds of no good, which has been the case for a long time. But
He
I
spoke out
don't,
in
I don't,
Paxton's favor.
yeah, I don't feel like he's going to get away with things anymore. Like he's been enjoying this kind of just cruising. Ted Cruz has been cruising
All right.
undeservedly.
Things about him. First off, he's directly in the line of fire. Well, first off, he was destabilized by those eclipses, the one on the midterm, and it's
Oh,
something happened that like started to blow his foundation out in November. And even though he supposedly won,
I
there
don't
is
think he was legit. I don't. Anyway.
I was in Texas before the election. I was seeing Beto signs in fancy schmancy neighborhoods where I didn't think anybody ever even breathed a word of being a Democrat. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I think Beta won.
Anyway, there this business this time frame that I'm talking about mid June really comes at him, and it has a lot, and it's going to hit um deals, money deals that he's made, underhanded money deals behind
Yeah.
entertainment purposes only, and maybe even deals in Congress, something about money coming to light. um
Guns. Guns.
oh, guns would fit.
NRA. NRA.
Guns would fit.
I feel like he's gotten so much money.
So the eclipse that I mentioned in October, the one that's going to reset things for Abbott, also resets things for Cruz, but it's more like his relationship with the public gets reset.
Oh,
Um, and by the fall of 2025, his life is in a completely different arena.
his political career ends and
Completely.
perhaps he's in jail. Perhaps. Just wishing. Someone's asking, as an early Gemini, would the Saturn squeeze be harsh? For people personally.
For personally, it basically just means you got to commit to yourself and suit up. The skating. There will be consequences if you skimp around the edges, cut
Yeah.
corners.
Yeah.
But if you, it's like a pressure to, oh God, I have to adult. Okay,
Yeah,
adult.
sometimes we do have to look inward and say, okay, time to be a grown up and be responsible and, balance a checkbook if people do that anymore. But you know what I mean. The responsible things. Do my taxes,
And rewards will come because
Yeah.
next February, as soon as Saturn gets around to this spot, where it's spending all of June. As soon as it does that, it's in an opportunity aspect to Jupiter expansion in
Yeah.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Money.
Money.
So
Money,
something
money,
really
money.
stabilizes. Something really if you've been acting, paying attention to your own business, committing to yourself, being a grown up, there is a reward for you early
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. It doesn't always have to be bad to commit to yourself, right?
I took an entire class on Saturn when I was at the Houston Institute of Astrology ages ago, and I bring this up all the time. We ended up with a catchphrase: "Saturn is my friend."
Oh, I like that.
Saturn
Yeah.
is my friend. You got to say it that way, my
Okay.
friend. So,
Saturn is my friend.
uh-huh.
I lived in
So,
Tennessee for a little bit.
right. So just know that, if you play the game and you act like an adult,
Yeah.
you behave responsibly, Saturn goes, "Good job. You get a gold star."
Yeah, so think about it that way. Committing to yourself means like that you listen to the voice within and you decide, I'm going to make the most of my life, right? I'm not going to compromise.
Or
One way of
I'm
looking
I'm
at it
going
too.
to look at the emperor, all right? The emperor in the tarot. I am going to take dominion
Yeah.
over whatever I can in my life. I will just
Yeah.
take responsibility for it. I'm going to commit to it. It's mine.
So it can be really empowering. Saturn can be really empowering in the positive aspect, but if you've been doing some nefarious things, it's going to whack you. I know people that have gone to jail literally during their Saturn return. Like, oops, it was going to come and get you.
I love to say Saturn was in the career house of Richard Nixon when Watergate broke.
There you go, people. So there it is.
Yeah, you
There's
misuse it, and Saturn will have its consequences. And otherwise you get elevated. Like, oh,
right. I
I've been
like
a
to
good
hear the
girl.
positives too. Like I would talk when we had our first show, I talked about Mercury being retrograde and how I've always seen that, aside from what, people freak out about it, I think it's a good thing to reflect and redo and reorganize, and it's good, and things slow down a bit, and you have a couple technical things that happen, maybe car stuff, but otherwise, it's good to kind of slow down. Saturn is a slow planet, so it forces us to slow down, and you know when it's heavily aspected in our chart, it's a great time to just like, okay, I can't go at lightning speed right now. I must stop and evaluate. It's really a good thing. And for these people that have been horrible, it's not, it doesn't go, even with the war going on in Ukraine. It's like, this is not going to go on forever. There is cosmic justice. I don't know if you've looked at Ukraine
Not for a
lately.
while. Not
Yeah.
lately. I do have the charts, and I'll be happy to look at it
Yeah.
for, if we want to have a geography-based conversation in a few weeks, I can
Yeah,
look
I
at.
know. There's so much going on the national front, and it's just an hour that we talk each time. But I think we're going to keep this up. There's just too much to know.
And we're in a phase where things are finally happening. I mean, that's really the message I want people to leave with, to
Right.
look at the news in the next 6 weeks from the perspective of domino, domino, domino,
Yeah.
lever,
Yeah.
lever, lever. And it's not going to be that we'll be dancing in the streets watching somebody being hauled off in handcuffs. Sorry, don't
Yeah.
think we're going to get that. But there will be, if you look at it, you go, oh, dot, 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 dot. It's connecting. Here we
Yep.
go.
And we are going to be so grateful that we have a justice system. It will be like for the longest time we've all been like and in June it just feels like we can go, well that's good. Well that's good. I just feel like, well that's good. Oh, really? That happened to, well that's good. Phew. And we
This
we
full,
need it. In the northern hemisphere, we're going into summer. It's time to
we
relax,
need
you
it.
know.
We need to have fun.
Yeah.
The full moon is in the sign of justice. And by the
Of
way, an
yes.
inspirational icon for us.
Excellent. Is that the Rider Waite?
It's Ruth Bader Ginsburg as the justice
Oh, is
card.
that? I'm like, that looks like a different color robe. Okay, it's hard to see from
Yeah,
here.
and she's wearing
Oh,
her I Dissent collar. Lily Claire
I love
Designs
it.
from
I love
Texas.
it.
She's on Instagram.
What's her
And
name?
her Lily Claire Designs.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Anyway, she also has like Dolly Parton as the Empress, but I brought Ruth Bader for our talk. She's
Oh,
here.
cool. I love your ring, by the way.
Thank you.
Is it amethyst?
Yeah, it is amethyst.
Nice. Amethyst is power stone. Well, we have a couple minutes left, so is there anything pressing that we should say? I do want to say I refuse to look at the 2024 election. There are too many things in play, too many variables. So I don't need you to at some point look at who's going to win and all that. I think that it's too soon and there's too much that's going to happen before then. But just out of curiosity, is this something that you've taken a peek at in
Let's just say
2024?
Biden and Harris are on the upswing.
They're knocking it out of the park, people, as we say in Boston.
Yeah, they're and Harris especially has some power up eclipses coming up, and actually this eclipse might be on something in her chart too. At any rate,
What sign is she?
she's a Libra with an
Okay.
Aries Aries. She's a full moon baby.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's totally, that fits. I guess she gave a commencement address
at West
at the.
Point,
Yeah.
first woman ever.
I didn't hear it. Did you hear it?
No, but just the fact that she's the first woman ever.
I know, that's all I needed to see. I guess that was
Here.
it for me. I was like, okay, there's a victory. I guess we can ask about the abortion ban situation and this, this evil patriarchy that we're being subjected to. Have you noticed anything shifting around that?
I would have thought that it would already be in but I mean, I looked at it from that framework when the Dobbs decision came down. I will go back to that because it's not a done deal. All right.
Right.
It was encoded with, this is going to get changed. It was encoded. So,
Okay.
I don't remember specifics, but as disgusting as everything looks right now, just keep in mind, there are judges in conservative states that are putting the halt on really,
That- That's true.
incredibly intrusive bans, and women are suing. And again, Texas,
Yeah.
battleground, women are suing the state because of
Yeah.
physical harm they have actually experienced. And that's just going to continue and continue. The courts are real important right now.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court is not it's I call it the death cult. I hate to be that extreme, but it's not there is no interest in human life coming from that court.
No.
Really. I mean, and they're gutting environmental protections, and it's just unbelievable. So, anyhow, maybe I don't know if you have a chart on the Supreme Court, and that's for next time, but
No, but I will say that this full moon is really going to light up and inflame a lot of things. So I bet there are some rulings that come down this week that might be the line in the sand. Like, okay, like
yeah, like
Paxton crossed the line in the sand. I bet they do something that is a line in the sand moment that would fit with the astrology.
I think they're
And that
going
stuff
for
starts happening.
it's like a contest. How heinous can we be? How much how mad can we make the American people? But that's a harbinger for change too, I think. So,
Yep.
on that note,
how can people find you, Annette?
Well, I was going to go first. Please book a psychic reading. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's at Psychic Annette Dion, and my website is psychicannettedion.com. I also have a church called Church of Spirituality .online, and book a reading. Everything's on my website, psychicannettedion.com, and I've got plenty of time to do your reading, so make sure you get in touch. And Kathy is doing astrology readings.
You'll do a tea leaf reading for someone, right?
Yeah, I decided to offer that for a limited time. See how it goes. They've been fun. I've done a few. But they're a lot of fun. I feel like I did that in a past lifetime, so it's pretty natural.
Cool,
and
cool.
You?
Well, my site is empowermentunlimited.net, and I have forecasts for every week, every new moon and full moon. So the Sagittarius full moon forecast is up. And for every month, the June forecast is already up. These things are double posted on my YouTube channel, which is Professional Aquarian. I have a Facebook group called the Astro Insight Lounge, where we talk about astrology in the news. Like, I'll use events to illustrate. Lately, it's a lot of people dying. But anyway, I'll use events to illustrate how astrology works. My Patreon is patreon.com/Kathy Biehl, and that has a lot of info for my patrons about how to work with the clockwork that's happening right now. And that also gives people the right to ask me a question every month.
Oh, great. Take advantage of that, people. Awesome. And your rates are on your website and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Get an astrology reading. I tell people all the time, you got to get your astrology chart read, because it's like a blueprint for your life. It's all in there.
It is. It's your wiring. Yes.
Yeah, it's why you came. On that note, thank you so much for tuning into Spirit Talk Podcast. I'm Annette. This is Kathy, and we'll be back in a couple weeks, I think.
Yay.
All right.